bringing you inside the USL Championship and League One.
Segmer's got there, Marquinhos! He's been knocking on the door! He knocks it down!
Diving into all the biggest stories and top headlines.
You are ripping and roaring today.
This is USL All Access.
It's almost impossible to recreate that level of magic.
With Mike Watts and Devon Kerr on Sirius XM FC.
Welcome, everyone. It's a new edition of USL All Access. It is a CBS week with Devon Kerr and soon-to-be Marion Crowder, I'm sure. Mike Watts, Emmett's at the controls. We've got a huge week coming up here. Game on ESPN2 on Friday that Devon and I will be too imbibed to truly appreciate. And then the big one on Saturday, Rhode Island, Hartford. We've got Brenden Burke on to chat about the Hartford side of things. We also didn't have a chance to talk about Dominic Casciato taking over at Tampa Bay. He will be joining us later on in the show. He's been at Union Omaha and done such a tremendous job. We're excited to chat with him as well. Devon, I hear Providence Italian food is excellent, and I hear that's what we're doing on Friday night. As a New Yorker, that feels like kind of a gamble, to be honest.
Do Italians do seafood?
I think they do quite a bit, yes.
The Feast of the Seven Fishes is something around Christmas time that I've always wanted to enjoy. One, Joe Malfa and his family, I have been invited. My desire to get on a plane and go to Jersey, all due respect, has never really been that much of an excitement. But I'm down for the Rhode Island, Hartford, Boston, the little trifecta that is going to be this weekend I'm in. And your idea, by the way, Marion Crowder joining us, I feel like we should bring her on the show soon. Good idea.
At some point, I agree with that. All right, Dev, let's chat about Dominic Casciato here for a moment. This news broke shortly after we recorded last week. That he'd be leaving Union Omaha, taking over the Rowdies. There is a transaction in place that allowed that to occur. So not only is this a unheard of move, League One to Championship, it also came with a fee, which I think also is important as a plot point here. Twice reigning Players Shield, Coach of the Year, won the double at Union Omaha. On its face, this is a home run for the Rowdies.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the important thing to note is, number one, what Dom took over, but then was able to not only sustain and grow it. It reminds me a lot of the changeover between Danny Cruz and John Hackworth at Louisville City. Now, recognizing there's a difference between Championship and League One, the idea to keep the dressing room the same, the way that you recruit players, Dom Casciato kept all of that at an organization that already had success. Would say that his relatability to the players probably took a step up, and his scouting Rolodex had the ability to expand the reach of what they were trying to bring in. But within all of that, and he's going to reference this in our pre-recorded interview, Mike, it's about flexibility within all of those profile of players. Tell me that isn't what Neill Collins got to the mountaintop with the Tampa Bay Rowdies when he was there. We always talk about that one change en route to the 2021 Eastern Conference title game. They fell short, but in the Eastern Conference final game, one change that affected 8 different players. That's the kind of versatility of what Dom Casciato looks for within his players, and it almost always comes with success.
Rowdy's new head coach will be with us later in the show. Dev, let's hit a couple of the big results of the weekend. Change at the top in the West and the East. San Antonio moved to first out west, a 1-0 win over the Rowdies. 90+5 winner Luke Hawkinson from Paredes put it on a platter. Forrest Lasso got sent off in that game. Charleston 2-1 over New Mexico. Rubio Rabin's first only goal for the club if the right offer came. New Mexico drops out of first. Battery move ahead of Louisville, but Lou City have a game in hand. Sacramento was interesting to you. They climbed to fourth with a 3-0 win over El Paso.
Early on, you could see defensively what they were working towards. They were much tighter-knit in nature, but they struggled on the attacking side. While I would still like to see more from the big names on the front line, the Piranos, certainly Juan Sebastian Herrera, I think the fact that you've scored 7 goals in the last 3 league games, Mike, and you have 6 different goal scorers is something to tip the cap to. There's a real belief that as they start to go forward, they're getting personnel up high, and they're doing it in numbers. That's where Neill Collins has always been successful. However he wants to build, you have to do it in strength, and the last 3 matches, they've done well.
Meanwhile, Sacramento announcing that Danny Vitiello and Jared Timmer both have signed multi-year extensions. That's easy business.
Has to be. Jared Timmer, possessionally as a center back, his distribution, top 5 in the league for me. He's got speed to back it up and a very physical player. Danny Vitiello, without a doubt, he's over my shoulder on this side for a reason. That is the best goalkeeper in the league. You cannot convince me otherwise. Consistency, explosion of saves, set pieces. He does everything. To ink him was the most necessary piece to retain success within that organization.
Elsewhere, Tulsa, barn-burning win over Las Vegas, 4-3. That was actually the best defense against the worst offense in the league coming in. Lights fall to 8th. Tulsa in 3rd, games in hand. Devin, Birmingham over North Carolina. Danny Trejos a brace in a 3-2 win.
A similar conversation to Sacramento. The difference is here, they don't exactly need all of the numbers up high. What they have been able to do is flip the field. Because Mark Briggs is so good defensively, he's lured opposition in a little bit more, and he's opened up the pathway. So if you get Adamas running downfield, if you get Tyler Pasher up high, they've actually weakened the opponent. They get more man-on-man situations, and their press on the defensive side, very impressive to cause turnovers and attacking opportunities.
And elsewhere, you and I called it Monterey Bay, 2-1 win over Orange County. They reach back up to 7th. Apologies to Nico Benalcazar, man. Number 4, number 9, you'd rotated high. I wasn't at my best. I called that goal for Ethan Zubak. I'm horribly embarrassed. I'm sorry, man. One of the worst own goals of my career. All right, when we come back, the Rowdies' new head coach, Dominic Casciato, joins us here on USL All Access.
Let's get back to USL All Access on Sirius XM FC with Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
Welcome back, everyone. It's USL All Access. As promised, the Tampa Bay Rowdies sent shockwaves throughout the USL ecosystem with one of the bigger coaching hires we've seen midseason in quite some time. Devin and I have been big fans of his for a long time. We've had him certainly through Open Cup over the years and through USL League One Championship games, and it's a joy to have him on the show now with a new job to chat about. Dom Casciato is the former Union Omaha boss, twice Coach of the Year in League One, has made the move to Tampa Bay to take over the Rowdies and joins us on the show. Dom, we're overjoyed for you, man. Owl no longer, but, I mean, this huge news. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I think a little part of me will always be in Omaha as well, so still part of me is an Owl for sure, but definitely really thankful and grateful for the opportunity and looking forward to getting started.
Yeah, before we get to sort of the process of taking the job with the Rowdies, it felt in reading everything out of Omaha fully supportive and a recognition that this was a major milestone in what so often is a player pipeline through the USL ecosystem. This time it's a head coach making that move. Can you describe sort of the relationship with Omaha that you built, and for them to sort of take the high road on this, I think says a lot about all parties involved.
Yeah, look, I'm really grateful to Gary and the rest of the ownership group in Omaha. Obviously, I've had a great relationship with all of those guys, from owners to front office from day one. And, really grateful that, one, obviously, they were able to get something for me, because I think that's an important part of this. And I think that helps the whole ecosystem, right? That helps the clubs at USL 1 level survive. So, one, I'm grateful that the club were looked after, but two, really grateful that the club approached it in the way that they did, realizing what a massive opportunity this was for me and for me to continue my career and kick on a little bit.
Mid-season within USL in general is rare. League One to Championship is unheard of without a club making the move up alongside it. How quickly did these conversations intensify? And was it the first time you'd sort of gotten the chance to go through this process since you've been in Omaha?
No, I've been up for a couple of jobs in the past. Couple I was offered and things didn't quite work out for one reason or another. So when this one came up, the Tampa one came up, they called and said, hey, would you be interested in speaking more about a job? Obviously spoke to the folks in Omaha, and then things accelerated pretty quickly over the course of 4 or 5 days. So, it's been a whirlwind couple of weeks here, but definitely pleased to be here. And, just can't wait to put my stamp on things.
Dom, you talked about the transaction between Omaha and the Tampa Bay Rowdies. I wonder if you could go a little bit further. How many bags of balls did they exactly get for you?
I think they didn't even get a full bag. I think they gave them two balls. They're like, we'll take it.
Oh, I was coming in at some point in time with it, man. Again, as Mike said, certainly honored to know you. But it's great to see the opportunity, and certainly excited to see what is to come. And I want to start there. You have an IQ that most people recognize off the field, on the field, for breaking the game down tactically. Your ability to manage players, manage changes within the match. You've got guys like Forrest Lasso and Aaron Guillen on the back line, Lewis Hilton in the midfield, the Swiss Army knife of Lawrence Wyke, Arteaga up top, former MVP and Leo Fernandez. There's a ton of talent on the squad that has struggled halfway through the season. What is your assessment of the team so far when you step into that dressing room, and how do you get them back on track?
Yeah, I think it's about taking it one step at a time. Like you say, I think there's a lot of quality in that locker room. There's a lot of experience in that locker room. And I think it's just about making sure that, we have a shared vision of how we're going to do things, and we have a shared vision for what Rowdies football is, right, and what Rowdies soccer looks like. And I think that's probably one of my strengths in terms of being able to build a real strong identity and getting guys to buy into that. So I think that's my objective from here on out. I feel really blessed to have such a quality and experienced locker room, behind me, and really looking forward to working with all those guys.
For people that never got the opportunity, who are Rowdies fans or Championship fans, that never got the opportunity and pleasure to see you coach at Union Omaha in USL League One, what's the difference that's going to be your flexibility, your versatility, man manager, and the way that you were able to manipulate your roster in the best of ways, whether long-term in a season or in a single game? What's the difference between what that was at Union Omaha and what people are going to see the Rowdies, at least short-term?
Yeah, I think kind of leaning on that one that you said about flexibility, right? Making sure that I'm flexible. Obviously, it's not my roster. I'm coming in mid-season. There's stuff that's gone on before I got here. I think the staff that took over after Robbie left did a really good job in terms of stabilising the ship and getting it headed in the right direction. So I think there's a lot of good things that have gone on there. I think for me, it's about being flexible, about making sure that I'm learning from the people around me. I'm leaning on the experienced players in the locker room to make sure that those guys are getting what they need and that I'm listening to them, right? Because these guys know what it takes to win. And I think it's just about reminding them of that and getting back to that.
Many manager, when they approach the beginning of the season, they assess what the table is, what other teams are going to have, and then you adjust, right? You figure out your own group, 8, 10, 12 games, but there's usually always goals set with individuals within the group, but also how it affects the table. What are our targets for goals? What are we looking at, points per game, things like that? How do you set standards like that, or goals like that, I should say, when you come in mid-season? Is there a target that's already been addressed within the group of what you guys need to achieve in, say, points per game to get into the postseason?
No, it's not something we've discussed right away. I think I've been here less than a week now. So for me, that first week, when I first got the job and it actually got announced the same day as everything got finalised, which was last Tuesday, my priority was connecting with all the players, making sure I introduced myself, letting them know that I was excited to work with them and just kind of getting their take on what they felt like they needed right now. So that was my, primary focus. We've continued to talk about those things and have a lot of kind of small group and individual conversations along the way. And then I think once we get through the Hartford game on Wednesday night, we'll sit down and say, okay, like this is what we can achieve together and this is how we get there.
Dominic Casciato's with us, the new head coach of the Tampa Bay Rowdies, USL All Access on this Tuesday night. Miss a part of the interview available on the SiriusXM app as well as the USL YouTube page. Coach, I'd like to sort of look at 30,000 feet because you don't just land at the Tampa Bay Rowdies. It's one of the more unique winding roads I've seen in coaching. So you come from England over to Limestone University, 4 years there. You start as a D1 assistant coach to the great Dr. Dave Mazer at St. John's. Then it's USL2, it's MPSL, it's NISA with the Cosmos. You go overseas, it's Spain, it's a stint in Denmark. You land in El Paso. That doesn't go great. Then you go to Omaha and incredible run there that leads you to this point. How does a coaching journey, a football life like this, shape you in how you go about your business day to day and how you operate a team?
Yeah, I've obviously had a lot of different experiences that I can pull on. I think most coaches are like that, right? It's very rare that you find coaches these days that have been in the same place for 10 or 15 years. So I've had a few different stops along the way and taken such a lot from every single one that I think shapes me not just on a daily basis, but also over the long term, right? That stuff starts to shape you, your experiences, the players that you work with, some of the challenges that you face and the resources that you have. So I think for me, it's really just about trying to be better every day and learn something every day, no matter where you are. And if you take that approach, I think eventually you end up where you're supposed to be, and you end up in a good place if your heart is always in the right place and you're humble about what you do.
Dom, I'm curious, the achievement side of things, both as individuals and the group itself. You guys did a lot in what I would call a short window, and I say that respectfully, understanding that that is a constant grind that never stops and you're always working. But it's, you're right around that 4.5 year mark, depending on off seasons, right? What that looks like. But you've set individual records, points per game, goals per game, right? Goals against, shutouts. You've had awards of players getting first team all USL League One onto the first team, right? You've had goalkeepers of the year, defenders, like basically every individual award. You yourself, coach of the year awards. Is there anything either that I brought up just there or that I didn't mention that you take with you that you're most proud of? Remember, that's also one of two coaches to win the double. Eric Quill, the only other manager who did it back in 2019 with North Texas.
No, I'm proud of everything. I'm proud of everything we did together, the relationships that we built with the players, the staff. I'm going to look back on that time in Omaha with so much love and affection. Like we did so many great things together, and I think that was always the heart of everything we did. We did it with love, and we certainly worked very, very hard. But yeah, we love what we do, and we had a great time together doing it. And yeah, I'm sad to see a lot of those guys go or say goodbye to a lot of those guys. But I think this was a unique opportunity that I just couldn't turn down, and hopefully can create some more special memories here.
From storm chasing to sun chasing, off to the Rowdies, Dominic Casciato. Look, you sit down at Al Lang for the first time, and we had the president of the Rowdies on earlier this season to talk a little bit about what the last 12 months for that organization has been like, and take the results out of it. The amount of work that had to be done to rebuild that venue, for the fan base to be able to come back at the beginning of this year and obviously deal with some of the early frustrations of the campaign. What's sort of the first thing that struck you about the organization, about Tampa Bay, other than the fact that the Gulf is a nice place to be on a Tuesday night?
It's not right now. There's a crazy thunderstorm rolling through, so it's not the best place to be right now, Mike.
Still storm chasing.
Exactly. I can't get away from it. There's great people in this organisation. Like it struck me from the first phone calls I had with Nico and Ryan, the president. You just got struck by how everybody wants the club to do well and be back where they belong at the top of the table. So I think that's the biggest piece for me, and I think that's something that I always look for. In any opportunity, is making sure you're aligned with good people, share a common vision, and all want the best, and don't care too much who gets the credit.
Dom, curious about the process leading in and where you're at now in terms of relationships. You and I have talked about vetting players coming into your roster. How about vetting the organization, the Tampa Bay Rowdies, and vetting the league? Anyone in the championship that you called ahead of time to maybe lead on about the journey that was about to be, or since you've accepted the job, a head coach, someone in a front office that maybe you'll look to for a little guidance in this new venture? Certainly the resume I'm sure you've got a nice little Rolodex built.
Yeah, look, no one has all the answers, right? So it's really helpful to have guys throughout the league that know the league, that have been in it for a few years now, who I can call friends, right? Who are willing to help and willing to share advice. I think someone like Neill Collins at Sacramento obviously knows this place like the back of his hand, and Neill has been a great resource to me as I went through the process. And now that I've got the job, Neill and I have spoken a little bit, and I've got nothing but a lot of admiration and respect for all the work he's done here in Tampa, but then also what he's building in Sacramento. So Neill's been a big resource, but I could name 5 or 6 other guys throughout the league who've reached out to offer advice, say congratulations. So yeah, it's I think it's a unique path that we lead, right? As head coaches, I think you've got to be a little bit crazy to live this life and do this for a living. So I think there's a lot of empathy and a lot of understanding amongst head coaches that no one really knows what you're going through unless you've done it before, because everybody thinks they can do your job better than you, right?
You're certainly crazy enough to exchange your telephone number with me and Mike, I'll tell you that much. Dom, a couple fun ones before we let you go, and recognize that some of this is certainly quote unquote living in the past, but given the storied history of tenure with Union Omaha and what you did for the club, what you and Union Omaha have done and continue to do for USL League One, any favorite memories in League One itself? Don't step outside of that competition, but in League One play, one of the title runs, a specific game, anything like that sticks out to you over that journey?
Yeah, we won in Tormenta last year to win the league back to back. That was huge, and we had a really crazy travel day on the day that we clinched the Players' Shield. So we were supposed to fly the day before as usual. Our flight was delayed until eventually it was cancelled. We had to travel the day of the game. We weren't able to move the game later or to the following day. So we showed up at the airport at like 5 a.m. I'd been to the supermarket the night before at like 11 o'clock, buying, breakfast things for the guys. So the guys show up. We get to Tormenta. It was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon or something by the time we had the connection or however we got down there. And in the first 2 minutes of the game, they score off a crazy deflection. So we go 1-0 down. And you start to think, all right, like maybe it's not going to be our day. Maybe we're going to have to wait another week to clinch it. And then we're on top. We're pushing. And then one of our centre-backs goes to pass the ball back to our goalkeeper and passes it straight past him and into the bottom corner. So 2-0 now going into half-time. And you're thinking, all right, like we're definitely not going to do it today, but that's okay. But the messaging to the guys was like, listen, you get one, you can get two, you get two, you can get three, you can go on and win the game. And the second half performance was just unbelievable. We ended up winning the game 3-2 and clinching the Players' Shield for the second straight time that night was really, really special. We celebrated really well. So that's one of my favourite ones. I think the year before that, when we clinched in Madison on the last day of the season, that was really special as well. We knew we had to go there and win. It's a tough place to go. It's one of our big rivals. So to win it in the way that we did after being unbeaten, I think for 14 or 15 games, that was crazy as well. So yeah, there's a few good ones. I could be here for a while.
You were kind enough to join us earlier this year during the Open Cup run. You've made a couple of them, including a quarterfinal run a few years back. How about Open Cup memories that stick out to you with the group?
Yeah, I guess there's two where we went to St. Louis and were beaten. So those two are pretty painful. My first win actually as a head coach was against my old club El Paso in 2023. So that's a nice one. And then one that's a little bit bittersweet is we played Kansas City at UNO at Caniglia Field, and we went 1-0 up and the place was rocking. And then they pulled one back in the second half, 1-1. We're about to take it to penalties. I think it's 119th or 120th minute in extra time, and Polito scored from the top of the box to put the game to bed. So that was good. It was great to see Omaha get behind the team in that way. It was great to play at UNO and feel the support of the local community in a different type of way. But really tough to come out on the losing side of that, because for large periods we were a better team and had some big chances to put the game to bed ourselves. So that was a tough one. That would have been a nice one to knock off.
Dom, last one. The leagues, and I say that as in the USL ecosystem, the Championship, League One, and certainly as it spreads League Two and the Academy system, they have such great support, right? And that's from the front office down. In terms of fan bases, hard to argue that there's a more storied one, USL Championship, recognizing that the originality of it all and Ralph's Mob dates back to NASL in the 70s. So within that and the modern era USL Championship, you got 60 seconds or so to pitch yourself to the Tampa Bay Rowdies supporters. What do you want to say to them?
No, I'm going to try and give you a team that you can be proud of. Every time they step on the field, win, lose or draw, I want you to be proud of the effort that the guys give, and we're always going to go into every single game to give our all and to win it. And I can't promise you we're going to win, but we're going to give it our all, and we're going to have a lot of fun trying.
I'm going to take a gamble here. How do you feel about horizontal stripes and collars on soccer jerseys?
I don't know. I'm not sure about guys that have their collar up when they wear it. I know that much.
Those guys got to go. Those guys got to go. I don't like those guys either. Hey, if Eric the King can do it, I can do it
That's
off
what
the
I mean.
field.
You're in good company there, right?
Devin's gonna put his no, he's gonna keep it popped.
No, I'm leaving it on.
Damn right you are. Dominic Casciato, new head coach of the Rowdies. Miss any part of the interview? It's available tomorrow on the USL YouTube page or on the SiriusXM app. Again, congratulations. We've been big admirers of you for a long time. Can't wait to see what you do in Tampa.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
When we come back, Brenden Burke to preview Hartford and Rhode Island Saturday on CBS. Don't go anywhere.
Giving insight to all the biggest moments in Championship and League One. This is USL All Access on Sirius XM FC with Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
Welcome back, everyone. It's USL All Access on this Tuesday evening. If you miss a part of the show, available on the SiriusXM app or the USL YouTube page tomorrow. Earlier, we had on the new Tampa Bay Rowdies head coach, Dominic Casciato. At this point, preparing for what's going to be a lengthy handshake, either on the winning, losing, or drawing side on Wednesday. It's not the game that we're here to promote, but the Rowdies will play Hartford on Wednesday. Then Hartford will travel up to Rhode Island for the first of what turns out to be two games. You'll see them Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern on CBS. And then the following week, they're going to end up playing for the Jägermeister division title against Rhode Island as well. Brenden Burke, head coach of Hartford Athletic. I don't know. Did we get you a 5-timers jacket yet? Welcome back to the show.
Thanks, fellas. Congrats to Dom, too. It'll be good to see him in the league. He's done a really good job. So be good to host him tomorrow night. Hopefully send him home unhappy and get on to Rhode Island.
Yeah, and look, you guys, it feels like you're picking up momentum. I mean, we've had conversations at the beginning of the year about trying to get this thing turned. Couple wins in the league over sides that are currently above the playoff line, the winning in against Rhode Island and Jaeger Cup. Does it feel like things are turning at this point?
Yeah, we've been playing well. We've been performing. That's the biggest thing for me. We weren't closing out games. There's only been one game in the last 2 months where I felt like we were really genuinely poor throughout, and that was against North Carolina at home. Otherwise, we're moving the ball well. We're breaking the last line. We're popping. We're squeezing people. We're creating goal scoring chances. I mean, I look back at the Loudoun game, and if you had ever told me a Hartford team was going to put up one of the highest XG in the history of the league, I would have laughed at you. But we're getting there now. We're finally, it's starting to feel like one of our teams of the past, and we're getting Michi fully fit, and this is a confident group right now.
Yeah, year 2 in Hartford for you. What made this rebuild different, more difficult than starting Bethlehem, where obviously you rolled out a bunch of 7-figure players? Colorado Springs, where you architected sort of the baseline of a team that ultimately became champions last year. What makes this different?
There's more to clear through to get started, I would say. In Colorado Springs, we had a pretty open slate when we walked in. And here it's just we're building up the infrastructure. We're building up all the support systems around the guys to put them in a position to win consistently. And I think there are a few disadvantages here. You're way up in the Northeast, so travel's a little different. It's taking me time to adjust to different rhythms. When you're in Colorado, you have the altitude right off the bat. And when you want to run and gun, that's a great way to play and, get teams to break down. So we've had to just evaluate different hurdles, I would say, than I've encountered before. You referenced Bethlehem. I have the full weight of Jimmy's team behind me. I'm getting all those young players like Derek Jones and Brenden Aaronson and McKenzie and Trusty and Matt Freeze, and all those guys are coming down to play with us. You're going to win a lot of games. You're going to get it right, even though there's a lot of chopping and changing in that environment. Here, I would say we're one of the smallest squads in the league, but we've really banded together. Right now, for me, it's just about keeping these guys healthy because they're training at a high level. They push each other. We have a great group of veterans, guys like Jordan Scarlett that have won everywhere they've gone in the league. Joe Farrell's another one. And some good rookies, some guys that have popped up and really impressed. Guys like TJ Prestis and a few others. And then we have an elite young striker, I think, in Mamadou as well.
Brenden, I want to step back a little bit further. You talked about the foundation of your team. Go back into the league. There's really only one other person outside of yourself that has been a constant on the sideline over the last decade. That's Bob Lilly. You've both changed organizations, right? Bob went from Rochester, now at Pittsburgh. You, of course, Bethlehem Steel, Colorado Springs, now with Hartford. A couple of players have gone from between the lines onto the sidelines, but you are the only two managers. Can you maybe talk about, in your eyes, what have been the biggest pieces of growth for this league over the last decade?
Oh, the infrastructure is amazing now. You look at places like Louisville, their facility is phenomenal. It's elite. It's an MLS quality facility. And having gone back and forth between the two leagues over the years many times now, it's really exciting to see the growth of USL from a financial standpoint. Players are making great wages now. Squads are bigger. Travel is a little bit easier. Actually, travel's a lot easier. No more bus rides from Bethlehem to Charleston, South Carolina. We're past all that. And it's exciting. It gives everyone a better product on the field on the weekend. So the more it grows, and now with the announcement of Division One coming, I think all the coaches, all the players are excited. And you mentioned Bob. Bob's a constant for everybody. I call Bob for advice still today. It doesn't matter how long you're working. If somebody's been doing it 10 or 20 years longer than you and doing it well like he has, you're always going to defer to that person if you're smart.
You as a manager, for people that don't know you, so much responsibility, certainly as a head coach, but even during your time at the Houston Dynamo with Ben Olsen, given to you in the evaluation of players on the roster and how, as a seasoned vet who's been doing it for a long time, or a new player coming out of college, transfer market, what have you, the incorporation into the team. I'm curious, within that, 3 different organizations during your time, 3 different ownership groups, 3 different experiences, 3 different budgets. Within all of that you've had the opportunity to accomplish and to work through, how have those experiences shaped you? Maybe changed your view of the league, changed your view of the game? What have those influences been like you to become the coach you are today?
Every one of them shapes you. Every one of them's important. Every one presents unique challenges, but also the ability to interact with people like Ernie Stewart and Chris Albright and Jim Curtin. And for those many, many years that I was able to be around those guys, and then be exposed to guys like Ben, who have a different perspective on, how the day flows, on how you run a meeting. He's very lighthearted at times, but very demanding as well. You learn these little management techniques, the timing of things. Every time you get exposed to a person who's operating at a higher level than you, and I would throw Bob in that category too, from just all the years playing against him and on the phone with him. Each of those experiences gives you an opportunity to learn. And at 42, I would hope I still have a long time to learn and help my players understand what other environments look like. We talk about that, actually, what you just mentioned right there. We talk about that in our morning meetings at times here in Hartford. Jordan, what was your time like under Neill at Tampa? What was your time like with Danny at Louisville? Joe, what was your time like in Phoenix when you guys were top of the league? Those are important to share with the younger players because it speeds up their development and their awareness.
Brenden, just to follow up on that, that's something that I think for people who don't have the familiarity of your background, that's probably a very different conversation of what you have the opportunity to experience now compared to your time at Bethlehem. And I don't mean that negatively, but when you're at the Bethlehem Steel, There's information, formations, personnel being dictated to you as to who you are and are not going to have access to, sometimes 24 hours prior to game day, to now where you got guys that you can make a case for top 50, top 25 players of all time that have made title runs. That's something very unique that I haven't really heard a manager share. And while maybe it's not groundbreaking, that's different for you. Has it changed the way you view a locker room?
Yeah, it's just it has. Absolutely it has. I mean, even exposure to the level of player I was around in Houston, that changed me. Being around Hector, being around our tour every day, Steve Clark, I would throw in that group. I learned from those guys probably more than they learned from me. I was just setting them up with Ben and the rest of the coaching staff with Aurelian for the weekend, but I was actively learning from them on the field. I was asking questions about their time at bigger clubs in Europe and things like that. I think it's really interesting, and I think it's really helpful for the younger players to hear that stuff. So I don't close off. Danny, I was an assistant coach in Philadelphia when Danny was still a player in Philadelphia, but I reference his culture and his locker room and the way they go about their business as a club to my club all the time. All the time. I think it's really important to recognize what others do really well and steal as much as you can as often as you can.
Speaking with head coach Brenden Burke of Hartford Athletic in the USL Championship Eastern Conference, they will welcome the Tampa Bay Rowdies at 7:30 Eastern Time. And we talked about Dom Casciato. That'll be the first, probably of many, battles between you two. And then we'll get to the Rhode Island game on the weekend, big CBS, 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Within all of that change, I mentioned budgets earlier. Had some interesting conversations recently about the transfer market with a lot of front office guys and how different it is, right? The CBA influenced it a couple of years ago. Great job by the Players Union to push it in a positive direction. And as much as there is the opening of opportunity from a financial standpoint and for players, a lot of it deserved. There are also some teams who will remain nameless, and I'm not referencing Hartford, trust me, that have been a little bit more aggressive in certain areas that can sway the financial side, even though the players are getting more, maybe to a detriment. I'm kind of curious, like, how do you view the transfer market right now and where it's at, given the way some teams attack it compared to others?
Yeah, well, I'll answer that in two parts. One, you're always fearful that you're going to go the way of NASL if you're a club or if you're even a league and spend too much too fast without the right infrastructure, without the right feedback, and the timing's poor, whatever happened. You don't want that, right? I think USL has very carefully grown their product, and the clubs have very carefully grown their infrastructure within the ecosystem. But now I'm starting to feel a little bit of a spending war going on for top talent in our league. And you're seeing salaries not 1x, 2x, you're seeing 3x and 4x in some cases. And that's great for the players, but you have to be very careful to not overvalue a guy. And can you then, if you're spending on a different level, can you bring guys in from other ecosystems that you'd never have access to before in the old days of USL? So now can you grab a guy out of the second division in France or the second division in a Spain and entice them to come here and raise the level? Can you steal a guy on loan, but now you're paying his full salary out of MLS? I'm seeing a lot more of that now in USL. Guys are coming on fully paid loans where they used to come for free just to get games. That doesn't happen so much anymore. So I think it's all good. It's all a sign of growth. And clubs are definitely attacking it at different speeds to wrap that up.
Yeah. Brenden Burke with us, head coach at Hartford. Look, I think if you're plugged into the larger supporter community in Hartford, they've certainly made their frustration known about sort of the larger run of form for the club that dates back long before you took over the club. Conversations we've had previously you've acknowledged that, where the amount of respect you have. They've been here when we've won 5 games in a year, and they're here understanding what we're going through from a rebuild perspective, and you've been very vocal about that. What can you sort of say as the club continues to mend those relationships with supporters, and it feels like there's been progress made on that front, to tell them, hey, this is going in the right direction, and we are getting where you, I know, have the ambition to take it?
Yeah, no, it's a great point. So I would say they continue to show up the way I said they would show up last year in good times and bad. And we went through a really difficult period this year where we were going to games with 14 guys, 15 guys, but they weren't all controllable situations. Some of it was getting hit hard with injuries or untimely international absences, things like that. We do need to grow. That's not a secret. We need to grow as a club, and we are growing as a club. I've seen the infrastructure growing around me actively since I got here, but that doesn't always show through on the weekend, each weekend. I think what you are seeing is we're steadying by mid-season, similar to last year. We got hot in the second half. We got hot a little earlier this year. We just dug ourselves a little bit more of a hole. But when I take a step back and I look at it from a management level, I walk around this building and I say, you got to know what it feels like to win, to go into a place where you haven't won consistently ever. Like Colorado had won before a long time ago when Lukey was their captain, and I'm taking it way back, Burke alone. And, they went through a down period, but then we started winning almost right away when we got in there, and there was such a buzz around the city. I mean, it was just there's this happiness in everyone in the front office, in everyone around town, in a coffee shop. People want to have a conversation, and they're taking pride in what you're doing. I think we're going to get there here. I think we need to continue to push the envelope, for sure, and I will always push from my side, because my belief is that a team can bring a city happiness.
Brenden, better mullet, Steve Tritchu or Steve Clark?
Steve Clark all day. All day.
Dude, I will never forget being down underneath the stadium, Shell Stadium with him walking up. That guy is a massive USL fan. He watches and listens all the time. Had no clue until I met him last year with you. Or 2 years ago, excuse me.
Steve actually helps out with some of our scouting here in Hartford. He's just doing a little on the side for us to, stay in contact with the game right now and brush up on things that he's going to want to address as a coach and stay sharp. And he's got a great mind for it, man. His vision tactically is so clear, so clean. And what I will say is I haven't met many goalkeepers that would take the risk on with their feet that he would. But, man, it was fun to watch when he did it sometimes.
Yeah, fun guy, nice person, and good tattoos as well as the great mullet. Let's assume everybody's lived under a rock and has no clue who you are as a manager or what's going on with Hartford. Been around the league a long time. You're building this project. We've talked about it. You're getting some steam here, right? Back-to-back wins, unbeaten in 3, averaging nearly 2 goals a game over the last 6, whether in league play or all competitions. Elevator pitch us. What's your sales tactic to the fans that are going to tune in, not just tomorrow, but big CBS and the rest of the year to follow you guys?
Yeah, I would say start watching tomorrow. I mean, we're hopefully, if we can continue to do what I preach, what my staff preaches, we're going to be aggressive. We're going to be front foot. We're going to average 2 goals a game, or we're at least going to put ourselves in a position to score multiple goals every time we play. We don't sit back. It's not slow. It's fast paced, front foot, and that part's never changing.
Brenden, this is the last one from me. It is still, in the best of ways, so astonishing to look back on players that you have had the opportunity to help mold as humans and certainly as footballers. I went back and pulled up my 2018 Bethlehem Steel board. Dear Lord, talent as managers, James Chambers, great player, of course, but the stewardship that he took there, your captain, and obviously now with Colorado Springs Switchbacks, you guys started that together. Tomas Romero in goal, Chris Shakes in goal, Brandon Aubrey, the All-Pro, point leader in 2023 in the NFL, kicker obviously for the Dallas Cowboys. I see AJ Patterson's on here, Santi Moar, Drew Skundrich, Matt Real. These are the guys that have made their way around the country, and a lot of people know them as championship players. Well, let's look further. Anthony Fontana, Josh Yarrow, Fabian Herbers, Derek Jones, Olivier Bizo, Mark McKenzie, John McCarthy, Jack Elliott, and last but not least, Brenden Aaronson. Dear Lord, I know that's a lot of names. I know it's a lot of information, but holy cow. Is there anything that you take away from some of those guys that you were around that you look back on and go, wow, that was cool. That was fun. And I'm sure it's not just one.
Oh, it's not. They all had a special quality, I would say, from a mentality standpoint that allowed them to go. And it's funny, I was at the U.S. Against Turkey, it was, in Hartford, probably a month and a half ago. And I had my son there, and I was pointing out players that had played for us. And he eventually went, "Dad, nobody cares." And I was like, buddy, but I care. Like, these
That's
guys
your boy,
are playing
though.
for the
That's definitely your
national
son.
team now. And
Put
I
your shin
remember
guards
them.
on.
Yeah. Oh, it was a total father-son conversation. But there were like 7 or 8 guys in the team. Freeze was in goal, and Nathan Harriel played, and and you're just and that's just the U.S. team. So it was a moment where I actually sat back and I said, "Wow, I was privileged enough to share the field with all these guys, and a lot of them all at the same time." But then you look around the league, and there's guys that are now retired that I had in Reading, like CJ Sapong and all these other Matt Hedges and all those guys. It's it's being in the development space of MLS can be so rewarding.
Yeah. It's funny, though, because you're like, yeah, that's just on the American team. And I'm thinking, coached a lot of Turks, did you?
I can't say
Burke's,
that I have.
Open to it. But Brendan Burke's with us, head coach at Hartford. I'll close with this, man. Devin and I did many games. I know Tyler Terrence did, too, with Devin in those early years. Wednesday at noon, Sunday at 2 o'clock. Lehigh Valley, 18 fans, guys on buses from Philly the day of to come get minutes.
Pop up tent for the locker room.
100%. Dude, you're going to a stadium that's going to have 10,000 people at it, a rivalry that's genuine on network television on Saturday. How nuts is that?
Can't wait. Well, honestly, it's another one of those moments where you go, wow, the game is exploding. I mean, that is a beautiful facility. I walked it before it was even built with some of those guys, and what they've done there is driving the league forward in a big way. And I think you're going to have a whole bunch of people reaching out to them saying, we want to do the same thing, and we're going to back it with real dollars, real government funding, but also private investment in the game at this level. I think it's vitally important for the product on the field, because when a guy walks out, when my players walk out there on Saturday and there's 10,000 people going nuts and both fan bases are in attendance, to your point, we're a regional rivalry right off the bat, you can't help but raise your level. You just can't help it. So the people watching on TV or they're in attendance, you're getting a better product just by the nature of the investment in the game. So I think what Rhode Island have done is phenomenal, and not just their stadium, their staff, their infrastructure around the stadium, the way they've built out their front office. They're one of those franchises. They look like Louisville right now. They're giving people a flag in the ground to go try to touch.
Can I take your drink order? Brendan, can't wait to see you this weekend. It's been too long. Can't wait to see the game on Saturday. I appreciate the time.
Same here. Thanks, guys.
That's Brendan Burke, Hartford Athletic head coach. You'll see Rhode Island, Hartford from Tidewater Landing only on CBS, 4 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. When we come back, we preview the national TV games coming up this week. here on USL All Access.
You're listening to USL All Access on Sirius XM FC. Here are your hosts, Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
We're back on USL All Access. Brenden, Burke, Dominic, Casciato, our guest this week. If you missed any part of those interviews, it's available tomorrow on the USL YouTube page and the SiriusXM app. All right, Devon, games people don't want to miss. Hit your DVR now. ESPN2, Friday, 7 Eastern, Detroit, Pittsburgh, and Keyworth. Detroit have lost 4 of 5 in the league after their defeat at the hands of Hartford. Pittsburgh settles for a draw at home. They led late against Loudoun on the weekend.
To me, it's simple for Pittsburgh. Defensively, they're great. Attacking-wise, they can do it, but they still need more out of that 8 pivot within the midfield to create link-up on the lines. And for Detroit City, I need to know the identity. This went from one of the most impressively stout defensive teams in the league to Danny Dicchio wanting to open up, getting more attacking-wise, to lost in limbo. I got to figure out what this team is, and soon they're dropping fast.
Dev, you and I have CBS Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern in Rhode Island, El Clamico, RAFC, and Hartford. Can't wait to see the stadium, the atmosphere. It's going to be great. They're both beneath the playoff line coming into the week. What can we look forward to?
I'm a little concerned for Rhode Island in this one, given how well Hartford have been able to do on the attacking side. Brenden Burke talked to us how they're playing well. If they get out of their own way defensively and specifically on set pieces, conceded way too much from dead balls, this team can open it up with the best of them. They are flying going forward, producing strength in numbers. And I think for Rhode Island FC, as well as Jackson Lee has done in goal, I'm looking on the opposite side, and I'm asking for more. J.J. Williams, Albert Diqua, Maxi Rodriguez, they played without a 9 to start the game on the weekend. That cannot be the case for this team to find the same type of success they saw in their inaugural season last year.
Devon, did you learn anything in this show?
I learned that it doesn't matter what we do and all the relationships that we create. My Rolodex or ours will never be as great as Brenden Burke's.
Agreed. Also, one thing I learned, it wasn't necessarily in this show. Kudos to the American Outlaws. Announced that they will cap their allotted tickets for U.S. soccer-hosted matches at $45. That doesn't affect the Gold Cup or the World Cup or Nations League. CONCACAF and FIFA set those prices. But it is a major step forward for soccer in this country because, as they noted, soccer should be accessible to everybody. So well done, AO. All right, we can't wait to see you again next Tuesday. We'll recap everything that occurred. Who knows? Devon and I may actually hit our time limit next week. For Devon, Emmett, Mike, see ya.
This is USL All Access. If you missed any portion of the program, listen back anytime on the SXM app.